The thing I remember is the smell. The smell of the leather ball. The smell of the gymnasium when you walked into it with that old wood that it drew me. And I fell in love with the game ever since. Growing up in Boston was awesome, but I can tell you that I remembered forced busing vividly in the early 70s, and I remember the riots. Boston's a great town. It's got great ethnicity, but it also had tremendous divide. And Boston wasn't a melting pot. It was a series of neighborhoods and ghettos that were very divided. And it bothered me. It bothered me to my core. And I think it, in a lot of ways, my becoming a coach had something to do with saying, no, I'm going to bring people together. And that's been my ministry, if you will. And I really think growing up in Boston and seeing the divide and seeing the tension about just because we prayed a little differently or we looked a little differently, unacceptable. When I look back at my high school career, when I was in middle school, I was coaching elementary school kids. When I was in high school, I was coaching middle school kids. I was always umpiring, refereeing, just always on the sports fields. That's sort of, what I was doing. And then when I went to BC and walked on the basketball team, got cut, wasn't good enough, but stayed in as a manager and as a student assistant and in every way, shape, or form. I only did it because I loved the game. I loved being a part of something. Never did it thinking I would coach professionally. Never. And then my senior year, Dr. Tom Davis got the Stanford job. And he called me over to his house and told me about that he just got the job, and he asked me to get on a plane with him the next day and fly out to Stanford to be one of his assistant coaches. I was 22 years old. I worked for him for 4 years, and not one day did I ever work for him thinking that I wanted to coach. But when I look back at it, and I look back at what I had been doing, that's all I'd been doing in my whole life, has been coaching. And so again, God had a plan. The decision that we made, I had about 100 people at my house on a Saturday after the Florida football game, and about 96 of them were allowed to be there. And I had 3 verbally committed kids that really couldn't have been there, shouldn't have been there. And I let them come and just said, don't say nothing to anybody about what a good cook I am. And so the great devastation for me was when I lied, and no matter whether I came back a week or 2 later and try to tell the truth, didn't matter. I made that mistake. I had to own that. That's probably the biggest thing, is just that I let so many people down. And it's not so much what we did. I mean, it wasn't, I ran a clean program, and we did a lot of things really, really right. We made a mistake. We paid a huge price. I had heard that there was some interest. I had heard that Auburn was asking some questions, but quite honestly, I was at ESPN. And so when Jay called, it was great to hear from him, and he wanted to talk, and I was happy about it, but I was working at ESPN. So he and David Benedict flew out to ESPN, and we couldn't have our first interview till about 11 o'clock at night after SportsCenter and after I was done working. We probably visited till about 2 o'clock in the morning. And if anybody knows me, if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. And I'm going to do it with 100% commitment. And I said, now, Jay, if you offer me this job, and if I do decide to take it, I promise you one thing, you will never look back and question my commitment. I will own it. I will wear it. You'll get 100% of what I got. It may not be enough, but you'll get everything I got. We visited the next morning, and after a night's sleep, I started to try it on a little bit. I put on the jacket of being Auburn's basketball coach, and I liked the way it fit. I liked the way it felt. And then we kind of moved from there. He let me know that Saturday morning that I wanted the job. It was mine. I said, I can't give you that answer right now. He said, well, if you don't give me that answer, I just may go out there and talk to a few other people. And I said, you know what, you might have to, but I've got Brandy at home, and I got 4 children, and this is going to be a family decision. And that made him want me even more. That I was willing to put the job on the line and make him wait 3 or 4 days, because I still had to stay at ESPN that weekend and work. But until I could look the people in the eye that I loved and make sure that they would be willing to do this with me, because I couldn't do it without them. That was an easy conversation. My daughter Leah drove down from Cincinnati. My son Stephen was in town. They missed me not being in coaching. They recognized the pain that I was in not being in coaching. And that conversation lasted about 2 minutes. They said, "Let's go to Auburn, Daddy." When you're not very talented, you have to make up for it in certain areas. I make up for it in work ethic, and I do make up for it in the passion that I have for what I do, my responsibilities. I've been given a great opportunity, an opportunity to lead a program that at one time was a nationally recognized brand. And I'm here to try to bring that brand of Auburn basketball back to the folks here on the Plains.